this is a story about an airship crash of a British airship in 1930. The world knows about 7 years later the Nazi airship called the Hindenburg, which went down in New Jersey. My airship went down in a hydrogen fireball that was just as big, killed more people, and a much better story was the 7 years earlier, British airship crashed in France. Wonderful tale of empire and decline of empire, and how the British were trying to kind of, in this way, save their empire by piecing it together with using these giant airships, floating through the world, going from Australia to India and Canada and South Africa and everywhere else. I got this out of there's a wonderful history, 3-volume history of the British Empire called Pax Britannica by a historian named James Morris, who became Jan Morris. And it's just flat brilliant. It's so brilliant, it kills me. And the 3rd volume, Farewell the Trumpets, which is kind of, you get the idea, it's the British Empire, it's the sun setting on the British Empire. And in that, there was this 2-page section just sitting in there about, I think this history may have been written in the 70s, I guess, maybe the 60s, about this airship, the R101. This technological marvel that was going to be the linchpin of the new world they called it the Imperial Airship Scheme, where they were going to populate the skies of the world with British airships. Anyway, the thing crashes. It's all wound up in the kind of the decline of the British Empire. And there's 2 pages on this, and I read it years ago, many years ago. And I thought, and when I went back to it a couple of years ago, I thought, well, this has been done 10 times. This is a great, the Hindenburg is really not that great a story, other than what caused the thing to go boom. R101 is a tale with all these crazy characters running around in it. Anyway, it's a very interesting story. And so I looked it up, and nobody done really anything of any significance since a book 40 years ago, which was written by not a professional writer. So although it had interesting stuff in it. But yeah, I think again, it was like, okay, I have this idea that no one does. Why? Because no one else reads Jan Morris, I guess. I felt like, why aren't you all doing this? It's a great tale. So R101 was the largest thing that had ever flown. It was what we call a rigid airship, so it's got a skeleton. It isn't just a blimp like the Goodyear, but it's got a big steel and aluminum skeleton, and inside of which are 5.5 million cubic feet of hydrogen held in these very flimsy gas bags. And R101 is 777 feet long, larger by volume than the Titanic. When she flew over London to blot out the sun, thousands would just come running. I mean, it was so, nobody, it was a gigantic piece of very, very high technology. And it was driven along by the book's hero, Lord Christopher Thompson, the doomed hero, Christopher Thompson, who was the British Secretary of State for Air, which is a great Shakespearean kind of title. And Thompson's overwhelming and sort of vaulting ambition to launch this Empire airship scheme and link the world with airships. And R101 is his flagship, poster child, whatever the metaphor is. And he's going to get in it and fly this thing to India and show the world that this could be done. And it never makes it to India, and goes down in a fireball that looks just like the Hindenburg. He has a great girlfriend. That is involved in some ways in all of this, because he's trying to please her. His life can be seen as an attempt to please Martha. When Lord Thompson was a lifer in the army, or he was until he was 45. And he was the military attaché in Romania. And he met this fairy tale princess, immensely wealthy. Marta Bibesco had 2 palaces, immensely wealthy, was the toast of literary Paris. Marcel Proust wrote poems to her, and André Gide, and everybody. She was just this, she was a writer, and she was pretty good, and she was a bestseller, and she was very beautiful, and she was this thing. And anyway, this Thompson kind of spends the next 20 years or 15 years trying to be worthy of her, and part of that is his flight to India, where he, if he makes it to India and back, he will become Viceroy of India, ruling over 320 million people in the largest and most important part of the British Empire. But anyway, it's a love story that's all tangled up in empire and India and various things. I had been up in hot air balloons, and I've had the experience of floating, which I found deeply unsettling. I really didn't like it. For one thing, I'm in this hot air balloon. I don't know how high up we are, but we're at, the little basket only comes to your knees, and so you're just, it's unsettling. Anyway, I wanted to go up in an airship, and I could have, under normal times, gone up in Germany. The town where they built the original Zeppelin. Zeppelins were the invention of these huge rigid airships. I never got to do it because of COVID, which was really too bad. But yeah, I've had the sensation of floating slowly above the earth, which is the sensation of airships. I mean, airships, the big ones, the big rigids, they flew low, and you could see deer and cattle and human beings down below, and it was this was the idea, this kind of leisurely, as if airplanes were noisy and dangerous and oil spattered and bumpy and had to refuel all the time, and airships were going to be this really kind of fun, luxurious way to see the world and travel. As Lord Thompson died on the airship, she was not. She was I can't remember where she was, Bucharest, I guess, but yeah. So yeah, that was a doomed love affair at the core of the doomed airship story. It ended the British airship program forever.